I just want to bring to the attention of the House on the issue of expunging certain submissions. Mr. Speaker, I think it is imperative that we understand that the individual who's on trial here is the Deputy Governor, Mr. Speaker. And when I look at some of the submissions and where we are being pulled towards in terms of, for instance, the reference on page 56, where we are told that we have to listen to certain issues that have been submitted with regards to the governor's wife, Mr. Speaker. As you have seen, and we have all seen previously, we have really tried as a Senate to stay away from the issue of the office of the First Lady or the First Gentleman, Mr. Speaker. And more often than not, including in these submissions that I have had being discussed in terms of being expunged, more often than not, it is a way of digressing this House from actually focusing on the charges, Mr. Speaker. The charges that are before us are 4. They are of gross violation, abuse of office, gross misconduct, and crimes under the national law. None of these charges, Mr. Speaker, are directing us to the wife of the governor. Mr. Speaker, so as you make that ruling, I implore you, Mr. Speaker, that you understand that this issue of the office of the First Lady and the First Gentleman is often being used to bring non-issues to this House, Mr. Speaker. So I want to point out to both parties that, first of all, the governor's wife is not going to appear before us. So therefore, we should, it is not forming part of this impeachment. And so therefore, Mr. Speaker, if you can guide that we do not reduce the House into a House that is going to discuss matters of patriarchy or feminism, or the issue of the first office or not the first office. The person who is here is the Deputy Governor, and we should limit our discussions on whether this particular impeachment has weight to impeach a Deputy Governor, and leave away the issues of or trying to bring about the spouse of the governor or any other person in this impeachment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Ledama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to bring to your attention Rule 30.
You have less than 2 minutes.
Okay.
And Rule 23.
Okay. Rule 20. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was trying to make sense of what the two parties, the Assembly and also the Deputy Governor, were trying to allege in terms of the introductions of new evidence. Mr. Speaker, Rule 30 of our impeachment rules states as follows: that when a particular question or matter, including but not limited to questions of evidence, materiality, relevant competence, or admissibility of evidence, and any question consequential or incident thereon, no provision has been made in the standing order or in these rules, the Speaker of the Senate shall rule on the questions on matters, and the ruling of the Speaker shall be final. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I stood up is because of the parity of the evidence. In this case, I've had both parties alleging that there is introduction of new evidence. I'd like to request that you apply Rule 30 so that during our closed session, you can determine that matter, and then we can be able to progress. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, to make progress, I'd wish to hear from the Deputy Governor's team a response to the preliminary objection by the Senator for Nandi. And also, I'd wish to hear a response from the County Assembly on the preliminary objection by the Senator for Nandi. Proceed. Proceed. I'll come to you. Okay. Honorable Senators, I'm informed that the Senator for Kisii cannot hear me because you're making noise. Kindly be silent. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, sir, my understanding is that you're inviting me to respond to Honorable Ladema's point in reference to Rule 30. Oh, okay.
For Nandi, who raised the preliminary objection opposing the appearance of Honorable Osoro.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll be as brief as this. Our position is that this Honorable Senate and the National Assembly are different functions. Number two, the impeachment jurisdiction that you're exercising today is not a function that is exercised at National Assembly. And for that reason, there is no conflict in Honorable Osoro appearing here, considering that there would be no occasion and no situation where we would have to influence or contribute to the question of whether the impeachment can proceed or not. I would also want to identify myself with the submissions by Honorable Kalwale and say, up to the last minute, we were together in the sense that if you are sitting already as judges, then we know that your members have appeared before court and conducted proceedings there. And insofar as therefore you're sitting as a court, then Honorable Osoro, for as long as he's not a member of this Senate, can participate the same way your other members have been able to make contribution in the court proceedings. I pray that you allow Dr. Monda to enjoy the services of an advocate of his choice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Mr. Speaker, sir, part of the benefit of attending law school and being a senator as distinguished as they are is that allow me to address the senator for Nandi as my junior learned friend, that he has correctly put it right, that there is no distinction, constitutionally there is no distinction between the National Assembly and the Senate. Pursuant to Article 93, there is established a Parliament of Kenya which shall consist of the National Assembly and the Senate. And as such, my learned friend Mr. Osoro, with all due respect, cannot then behave like a ping pong. He cannot have his bread and eat it. He must choose whether he wants to be a legislator or he wants to be an advocate. The tragedy of premising a case such as this one on misconception of facts is that Mr. Osoro wants to convert this distinguished assembly to a field day somewhere in Nyarimbari Church. And as such, Mr. Osoro then cannot then continue to appear as an advocate and as a member of parliament. He has to choose which court does he want to wear.
Now, honorable senators, it is now 1:38. We are going to adjourn and resume at 2:30. I'll be delivering my ruling at 2:30 before we proceed with evidence by the County Assembly. Now, the issues that have been raised that require my determination are: one, whether we should allow to summon Hagai, a request, an application that has been made by the County Assembly. Two, whether to expunge certain paragraphs for being irrelevant as submitted by the County Assembly. Whether to expunge certain paragraphs and documents for, one, introducing new evidence and material as submitted by the Deputy Governor, and secondly, whether the documents as submitted by the County Assembly of Kisii did violate a mandatory rule that required the County Assembly to deliberate on this matter within 10 days. It is the submission of the Deputy Governor that the County Assembly of Kisii violated that rule by sitting outside the 10 days. That's a matter that I will rule on. And lastly, whether Honorable Osoro can appear for and on behalf of the Deputy Governor. So those are the issues that we will rule before we proceed to take evidence from the County Assembly. So, yes, Council?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm just seeking for your guidance, and I can read the mood of the House, is whether on that particular issue of 10 days, whether we could be given an opportunity to respond to the same because of an allegation as against our client.
Well, I gave you that opportunity to respond, and you chose not to.
You invited me to respond to the question of Mr. Osoro. But I leave it to the Senate, I believe.
Yeah, just leave it to us. The Senate is wise enough. Yes, Senator Sifuna.
Speaker, I wanted further clarification because we are all seated here as judges, and I hold the position that these are decisions that are to be taken by the House. At what point do we input as the judges before you render your decision? Because I am hoping that it is not the decision of the Speaker, it is going to be the decision of the House.
I think, Honorable Sifuna, kindly arm yourself with the standing orders. All right, pick one of them. Pick one of them and read Rule 30.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm very well versed with Rule 30.
Just read Rule 30. Please.
I am well versed with the rule. I just want to say...
I am not versed. Read it for me, please.
But you cannot direct me to read. I am saying...
Honorable Sifuna, read Rule 30.
I am well versed with the rule. Let me say what I want to say, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, let her read. Let's see how well she knows. I don't think there is any rule that requires that I can be directed to read.
Honorable Sifuna, take your seat.
Thank you.
If you have a problem reading English, I will proceed to read it for you. Where a particular question or matter, including but not limited to questions of evidence, materiality, relevance, competence, or admissibility of evidence, and any questions consequential or incidental thereto, no provision has been made in the standing orders or in these rules. The Speaker of the Senate shall rule on the question or matter, and the ruling of the Speaker shall be final. I have not given you the floor, Senator Sifuna. I have not given you the floor. So, honorable senators, please be upstanding. Honorable senators, the Senate is adjourned until today, Wednesday, 13th of